Hey, Ken.
How come that doesn't look like the Josh Zaglowski that I know?
Shoot, I'm using his account still.
Okay.
How's it going, Adam? I need
Good
to
to see ya.
change that. So we're partners on a few projects, and I ran a meeting this morning, and apparently I'm still on his account.
Say hi for me.
Yeah, will do.
I saw that too. I was like, wow, Josh hasn't joined us yet. That's awesome.
Sorry to let you down. There you go.
Never. You always good to have you, Senor Pollard. Well, Chelsea, let's rock and roll. I think we've got a good crew here to start. There'll be other people trickling in, but yeah, let's go ahead and do this.
All right. Well, everybody, welcome as always to the Salt Lake City Multifamily Meetup virtual. Thank you, everybody who's joining, and particularly huge thank you to Adam Adams for being here tonight as our guest. We're super excited. We're just going to do some quick housekeeping and we're going to jump right into it. Guidelines here for the group. Please no politics, race, religion, or sexual harassment. Obviously, we would not expect any of this from any of you, but just throwing it out there. Tate and I always like to sort of talk about the group culture. We're all about inclusiveness, high individual standards, doing deals, moving the needle, meeting partners, continual improvement. So many great things happen in these groups. These are where partnerships are formed. So we highly encourage you to, speak up, not just in tonight's event, but outside of here in our Facebook group, through email. And Tate and I, of course, are here too if anybody ever needs anything. To get the most out of this group is, first and foremost, just be intentional. We're here to add value and help one another reach our goals. As always, please share your info in the chat: name, phone number, email address, area of expertise. Are you active? Are you a passive investor? Do you have any deals that you're working on? Where are you doing deals? And if you enter your information, we will email you a copy of the sign-in sheet as well as some bonus materials from Adam. So please enter that information. And yeah, with no further ado, for those of you who do and don't know me, I'm Chelsea Garber, partner at Greenlight Equity Group with Tate Siemer and Carl York. Additionally, the founder of ROI by Design. We do multifamily design and remodeling, fully integrated here with Greenlight. So if anybody ever needs help, from a design perspective, happy to discuss your project. And yeah, just excited as always to be with all of you and, share what we have going on and vice versa. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat throughout this evening and we will, get them answered accordingly. With that being said, I'm going to hand the mic over to Tate and then we'll kind of get the show on the road.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Chelsea. So yeah, I'm Tate Siemer and I'm the kind of the captain of the ship, so to speak, at Greenlight Equity Group here. And a little bit about Greenlight. We currently have exactly 320 units under ownership as of today, and moving forward we have about 252, I believe, units under contract right now between two different deals, and we have another quite larger deal in the works, and we always have opportunity for partnership, and are always happy to have discussion with you around what that might look like. And both Chelsea and I are available, as she mentioned, by appointment. You can go to investwithgreenlight.com to get in touch with us, and book an appointment to chat and whatnot. We also have a really great investor club that you can join there. So with that, I'll just kind of add my 2 cents on culture. Like, Chelsea mentioned that we're a value add culture here, and we really truly are. And the cool thing about this group and this meeting every month is that people really come to this with a real kind of from a space of contribution and contribution. Contribution. That's the word I'm looking for. And generosity and like these breakout rooms can almost be like mini 10-minute masterminds, and you can really meet some needle moving people that are going to just be super powerful in your business. That happens all the time in groups like this. And in this group, we've had partnerships come out of this group already. So, what you're doing here, I say, is like $30,000 an hour work potentially, because you can really level up here in terms of getting what you need to get your business to the next level. A lot is available through this group. So yeah, again, if you're coming at these breakout rooms a little later from a space of like, how can I help? You can't go wrong in that way. So speaking of how can I help, Mr. Adam Adams, our guest, is one of the most generous, just kind of big-hearted people that I've ever met. And I have Adam to thank specifically and pretty much exclusively for being in the apartment building space today. And when I say that, what I mean is I was a single family house flipper with my partner, Carl York, and started going to Utah Real Estate Investor Association meetings, and ended up at one particular evening where Adam was speaking on the 5 ways to get involved in apartment buildings or in multifamily investing. And it was the first time I'd heard of people like buying apartments and doing that sort of thing, but it was the first time that anybody ever like looked at me and said, you can do this, and here's some ways how to do it. And if you want to learn more, I'm having this amazing event in Denver in a few weeks that you should all come to, which I did. And the speaker lineup at that thing was amazing. That was Adam's Finding Deals Summit in April of 2019. And that really, I look at that particular weekend as the beginning of my real career in larger scale asset class commercial multifamily, and putting together a team and a machine that is capable of taking down bigger deals. And so, and then, Adam's influence on us didn't end there at all. In fact, was involved with Adam and his group, his mastermind around thought leadership. And he was the one that really encouraged me to start a podcast, and which I've done and still have today. It's called the Apartment Guys Podcast, that some of you have listened to, hopefully. And Adam's been a guest, and and I've had a lot of really awesome high level guests on that show. And like, honestly, the podcast is like the coolest thing I've ever done professionally, hands down. Like, it's this creative outlet that I didn't know I didn't have and missed. Like, I love it. And I love the space that we're in, this apartment investing space. And so I have a lot to thank you for, Adam. I know you know this because we've talked about it before, but it's like I'll always be in gratitude. So thank you, brother. Thank you for being here tonight and sharing with us.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm stoked.
Cool.
Tate, you're the man, and I really appreciate being here. I think last time I was in Utah, I think I rode up my bike with Chelsea and in Park City and Tate in like by Point of the Mountain. So
Yeah,
I
Draper,
need to
yeah.
get back out there again soon. All right, well, I'll start, and we are going to be talking about thought leadership. I truly believe that it's like the missing piece why a lot of people just really struggle raising money. They'll say, hey, I want to be an apartment investor like Tate. But then when they start, it's just too much of a challenge for them to get the money that they need to be able to close on deals. And so I've always thought that thought leadership was kind of like that missing link, that missing piece that a lot of people are not doing, and the reason why they're getting held back. So I'm going to share my screen when I get permissions to. Host disabled me. While we're working on that, oh, I'm a host now. While we're getting that started, I will mention to you guys and gals that during the presentation, probably ask you to raise your hand, probably ask you to give me a little bit of involvement. That'll help me a lot, I'm sure. But if you like Tony Robbins, he always says that one of the reasons he makes people stand up and sit down and yell and clap is because actually when you do that, when you're the audience, when you're the listener, when you're the viewer, if you're engaged, if you're doing those things, answering questions, raising your hand, you'll learn a ton more. I'm not going to get into the science of it, but they actually did a study. I think it was Harvard Business School did a study to see how to get people to learn from presentations. And the top thing is not taking notes, is not listening, it's not being not being distracted, but it's actually being involved. So with that said, let's get started. Adam Adams is my real name for any of you who are like, is that his real name? Yes, it is, but I've only had it since I was 4. I got my mom's maiden name when I was about to go to school. So she didn't want to remember my bio dad or her old life. So it is a real name. So let's get started. The number one reason you fail to raise money. And I really want to talk about something before like we get too far into it. This is one of those times I'll ask for participation. For you and being able to raise millions of dollars instead of tens of dollars, what do you think like the main thing that's going to make that difference? What do you think is the main thing that'll make it so instead of you being able to barely raise $500 versus $5 million being fairly easy? So let's go check. We've got some hands raised. We've got some people chatting. So let's see who's raising their hands. All right. Tate and Kenneth. Kenneth, what do you think?
I would just think it'd be like your network and your reputation within your network. You know, if you're a deal closer, you know, and the people you know, that gets around, and people will start wanting to do deals with you. So I think like your network and your reputation within it is probably one of the biggest factors.
I agree 100% with that. The reputation and the network, the connections that you have. Now let me try to find these chats that people are dropping. Relationships. And okay, here's what I want to suggest. And the perfect answer, by the way. Here's what I want to suggest. It's just leverage. It's doing something that can give you exponential results. And thought leadership platforms are a thing that you can do once and get exponential benefits. So here's my slide 2. I don't know how to hide this, but so you won't be able to see who said this. But this guy says, just give me the place to stand and I'll move the earth. You can tell, like, it might be difficult for some of us to lift, let's just say 1,000 pounds, for example. But if we use certain leverage, it would be simple and easy for us to lift 1,000 pounds. So just think about a jack that people have for their cars. And most of these cars are 2,000 plus pounds, a whole ton. And all they're doing is making a lever, making a leverage, putting the pivot point in a place where it makes sense. And they're pushing over here where it's really easy. He only has to push down a few pounds and he can lift whatever he wants. So leverage is kind of the name of the game. And for me, thought leadership is the main thing that can help with leverage. And I want to ask you if you've heard this before, first you find the deal and money automatically comes. Has anyone seen that before or heard that before? Have you been to a meetup before and they said, if you find a deal, the money automatically comes?
Yeah. Yes. And that may have come out of my mouth.
I personally don't think that the money automatically comes.
Right. Right.
The money can come, but going back to what I think Kenneth was saying, and also, let's see who else said it. Scott said, it goes back to, you've got to have those relationships. And so in a little bit, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the KLTI blueprint and how it's so important and how it actually helps you raise the most amount of money. But I personally don't think that just having a deal is the only thing that it takes to raise millions of dollars. Maybe if all you need is 50 grand, you might be able to have a really good deal and some sucker will come around and give you the 50. But I think really you have to be intentional. And later I'll talk about it being kind of like a tree that you're planting and having that fruit of the tree. And it's kind of a process. And I want to share with you a little bit about how to do it. So find the deal, the money will come. Technically, if you have a good deal, you might be able to get some money. But if you don't have those relationships, if you don't have the credibility that I think Kenneth also mentioned, credibility, some of that stuff. Do I need to let people in, or is that like, do I need to do that, Tate? Or are you still?
Actually, I made you host. I didn't make you co-host. So yes.
Okay.
I can probably fix that.
Okay. No problem. Let me see if I can.
Maybe go to me and make me co-host.
Yeah. Let me figure that out real fast.
Sorry about
participants.
that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. There we go.
Great.
And Chelsea as well. That'll help.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. So I know this is like alarming, a big wrong sticker, but I cringe honestly when I hear people say that. And it reminds me of this guy. His name's not really Mike, but also I think it's beneficial to hide his reputation because he was syndicating for a long time. He's a really strong operator and there's really nothing against him, but I think most of us can find ourselves in his exact same situation. Exactly 2 years ago this month, Mike called me and he let me know that he's closed over 1,000 doors. He's on his like 7th deal and he just couldn't really raise the money. What happened for him is a $5 million deal. So if you don't already know this, it's fairly standard to put about 1% down when you're buying a deal. So Mike put down 50 grand as hard earnest money. That was his 1% EMD, earnest money deposit. And Mike was freaking out because he called me and he said, I heard that, you could help me raise money. How can you help me? And I asked him some situation, like some details of his situation, and basically asked him like, where are you? What have you been doing? How long until you close? And with Mike's situation, he had 50 grand hardest earnest money for a $5 million deal. And he was freaking out and he was calling people basically with this to say, hey, can you invest? I need your money or else I'm going to lose my earnest money. And he just kept calling people saying that. And it didn't work. Mike ended up losing $50,000. he was able to raise about $500,000 toward his $2 million raise. It was a little over 2 million. And he ended up losing 50 grand, and he was upset. He was sad. He was disappointed. He was poor. And it was like, what am I going to do now? And that's where we come in, like with this idea of like a fruit tree, an apple tree. You got to plant some of this stuff. You got to be doing this as soon as possible. A lot of people say like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So if you want to pluck those apples off the tree and be able to have the fruits of your labor and eat it and enjoy it, sometimes it takes time. It takes nurturing. It takes some leverage. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and how it could help you. So instead of being like Mike, don't be like Mike. Mike was basically chasing money. You recall that when he was calling his friends, his passive investors, he was basically desperate. He was basically like, please, I need you to invest in this or else I'm going to lose my earnest money. This is really important to me. And he was basically chasing money. And so there's two ways to go about life. There's if you find a good deal, the money automatically comes. You want to chase it. You want to be there. And the other way is to attract it. So I want to share with you a little bit of these two different routes. Imagine you're in a park and you see somebody that you're attracted to. And all of a sudden you pull out a wedding ring, an engagement ring from your pocket. And you just go get on your knee and you say, I think you're so pretty and I'm such a handsome person myself. We should get married, don't you think? What is that going to do? How is that going to feel if you're talking to a stranger and trying to ask them if you're proposing something that big to them? You're going to get slapped or worse. You might even get a restraining order. So what chasing money looks like is you're only talking to people like when you need the money. Like it's time for you to need money. And now you're going to call them. Now you're going to email them. Now you're going to message them. It's the only time you're talking to them. Additionally, you are cold calling them. You're reaching out of the blue. Additionally, you're at a networking event and you're like putting a stack of your business cards in all of the corners and you're going up to people and saying, hi, my name's Adam. Do you have a business card? And you're just like, you exchange that business card and then you dart away. You just like run away. It feels freaking awkward to have somebody doing that. It just feels so weird to have somebody thinking that they're going to go from just meeting you once to all of a sudden you're their passive investor. Now, I'm not saying this doesn't happen. There's love at first sight. And there's also passive investors who they might just see you one time and be like, hey, let me give him a shot. I'll give you $1 million for your next deal. But it's not the rule. Just because there's exceptions to the rule doesn't mean it's the rule. It doesn't mean that you should just go and throw your desperate heart out at everybody out there. And additionally, what else does chasing look like? It's going on social media. And I've got a few friends who have done this. Great connections. And hopefully you guys aren't doing it. And hopefully I can also talk you into not ever doing it. But what they'll do is they'll go onto Facebook, for example, and then they'll be connected in all of these real estate groups. And then what they'll do is within 10 minutes, they'll go and post in 20 different real estate groups. And maybe it's just 3. Okay. 3 is still bad, but some of these people are doing it a lot more. They're just going to the real estate groups and they're setting it and forgetting it. All they're doing is posting the spam and never looking at it again. They don't come back to engage with anybody. They are just in your face, self-promotion, come to my meetup, listen to my podcast, invest in my deal. And it's a little off-putting. And finally, last but not least, when you're at an event and somebody only is talking to you, they're only like telling you about themselves. You haven't even asked some of these questions and they're just like, oh, I do this and I do this and I do this, and this is how I help people like you. It gets a little bit off-putting. The difference here I think of is magnetism. And if you could just imagine, if you could just imagine a magnet, two magnets. One is, let's just say, one is facing everybody with the north. Well, we'll call it plus, the north or the plus side. And this is kind of like that normal salesy. I'm the best syndicator. I'm the best real estate investor. You need to invest with me. All this kind of stuff. We're pushy, 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 pushy. And we've got to be thinking of what is the other person? Well, over time, you and I as human beings, we've gotten a little bit smarter. We're tired of being sold things. We're tired of being talked into things. And so we are no longer passive. You are no longer passive. You're no longer at these events just begging people to tell you all about their business and how you could be a part of it. When you walk into a store sometimes and you know you want to wear pants, you want to buy pants or a dress or a shirt or blouse or any other thing, you know what you're looking for. And the person at the front desk says, how can I help you? You say, no, I don't need help. I'm just looking. You wanted to buy, but now you're like, whoa, I've got my north on, plus sign. Do not push me. I'm going to push back on you. I don't want to be sold. You walk in to a car lot because you want to buy a car, and the salesperson who's there just to help you is like, how can I help you? And you're like, no, just looking. I'm done. So when you are at an event, you need to be basically listening more than you're talking. So here's a few other things. So joining your Facebook group. This is what attraction looks like. You have a platform. They're coming to you. They're joining your group. They're calling you. They're asking for advice. They're coming to your online event, your in-person event. They're listening to your podcast. They're telling you what they're interested in. And they feel like you get them. They have this thought, this impression, like this person knows what I'm going through. This person can help me. So back in the old days, maybe it was easier to be a plus sign when you were salesy, to be that loud, obnoxious, everybody buy my stuff, I've got a deal. Maybe it worked in the past, but people aren't passive anymore. They've switched their magnet. So now you've got to switch your magnet, and you've got to pull people to you instead of push people in a direction. So you got to pull them. The best way to do that is with a thought leadership platform. So I mentioned this before. If you like fruit, if you like vegetables, I'm not sure if you guys garden, but if you do, think about like how long it took you to make some of these things. Look how many apples are just in this very small portion of this tree. There's more apples, more available fruit right here in this picture, and it's only a segment of the whole tree. This is more than any tomato vine I've ever seen. So I want you guys to plant apple trees. I want you to always be able to go to your fruits, and you have more than you need. You have so many that some of them aren't even going to need to get used. They might even fall off. You might even feed them to the birds or compost them. But you should have the ability to have more money than you have deals, more fruit than you can even possibly eat. And just so you know, there are trillions of dollars of money just waiting to go into deals, and there's very few deals available. So earlier I mentioned that I'll share with you just the KLTI blueprint. Basically, this is how do you get people to know, like, trust, and then invest with you. You don't open up a wedding ring and chase them around in the park to go straight to invest. You got to do something ahead of time so that you already have those relationships, just like a couple of people have already mentioned with the relationships. I think it was Kenneth and Scott. How do you do that? You let them know who you are. A small amount of the people who have heard of you will like you, like your content, enjoy your content, and get value from your content. And then a small percentage of them will trust you, believe in you, and want to do business with you. And then a small percent of the people that want to are going to invest. So just to share like how our sequence has worked, we've got in our no phase, I couldn't tell you the exact amount of people that have heard my name, but I have spoken at a lot of conferences. I've been on a lot of different people's podcasts. I have my own podcast. It has several 100,000 downloads. So it's probably a lot of people who know who I am, right? Then it's who likes me. Out of the tens and tens and tens of thousands, it's only like 6,000 people who like me, right? They're on my email list. They wanted to get some information in exchange for an email. They came to my event. They listened to my podcast, and then they took action on a lead magnet. So maybe about 6,000 like me. How many trust me? Well, with that said, out of the 6,000, 742 have said that they want to be an investor. So just over 10% of those people have said, hey, I want to be on your list. I want to know the next time that you have a deal. I have enough money to invest. That's 742. But who have actually invested is about 60. Out of the 742, approximately 60 have actually passively invested in our deal. And that equates to several $1 million of monies raised and deals closed. So I want to make some inspiration for you. You know, Tate might even be in this boat. I haven't specifically asked him, but he might be in this boat. So I'd be curious to know in a moment. But there is something that I have in common with Joe Fairless and Whitney Sewell. Adam Adams, Joe Fairless, and Whitney Sewell, I hope you've heard of all three of us, have started a podcast with the intention of attracting passive income, passive capital, so that we could close on real estate syndication. So, but the interesting thing about Joe and Whitney and me is we launched the podcast before we ever did a syndication deal, before we ever raised money for apartments. We started our podcast. And now Joe, I think, has over $1 billion. Whitney far surpassed me, even though he started his podcast 2 years after me. And I think he's at like 3,000 or 4,000 doors, probably at $250 million of real estate that he's general partner on. And there's Joe. And all of us started before we ever closed a deal. Quick question, Tate, are you the same way, or did you close on your syndication and then start the apartment guys?
No, started the podcast long before our first deal.
And now you closed on 320-ish doors?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. All right. So this will happen to you guys as well. Once you start your podcast, start your thought leadership, it will attract. But I can sense that many people are afraid to start a platform. In fact, I am one person who is, or who was. I was afraid to do it. I was scared to do it. I didn't think that I'm not an eloquent person at all. I'm not the most educated. I went to college, but I didn't graduate with a doctorate or anything else that's super special. I'm just a guy, right? And I just wanted to be able to raise capital. And I thought, well, who would listen to me? Who would want to listen to me? Who would learn from me? I haven't even closed a deal. So there was a lot holding me back. One of the things that was holding me back is I didn't really identify as an influencer. I didn't really think of myself like I'm an influencer. So just so you know, nobody is born an influencer. I'm shy. I am not super eloquent. No, I wasn't born to be able to do it, but I figured out there's a few steps that we can all do to be able to attract followers build that trust and likability, create urgency and scarcity, and ultimately close on millions of dollars real estate. Here's an example of somebody who has created a thought leadership platform, and it's not even a lot of people, 3,000 subscribers. And I'm being generous. It's not a ton of people, but this person in front of you has been able to close on tons and tons and tons of deals. Well, they created a free university where anyone can come and learn how to multifamily invest. And then they have a call to action that shows that they're the right ones. Here's a screenshot of my meetup. And this is a meetup that I've raised $4.2 million from. The meetup, called the Real Estate Lunch Club of Denver, only has 1,600 members, but $4.2 million came out of a lunch club, which, to put it in perspective, if this is like a 20% down payment, that's getting pretty close to $20-ish million of real estate that I was able to close on because of a little tiny lunch club that only had 1,600 members. So it's not like you need to get in front of millions, right? 3,000, 1,000, you don't have to really get in front of millions. But what's kind of cool is what it's done for me. Here's a conference that we hosted that had over 600 people in it. You know, here's a few people that were in our coaching and mastermind group that wanted to connect and do deals with us. Here's a dinner that I had with Hal Elrod and some other cool peeps, and talked to Hal Elrod about a Miracle Morning meetup group that he might start next year. So a lot of fun stuff came because I started this little meetup group. So you've got to be thinking of what can you do to kind of grow your influence. And it's all about a thought leadership platform. So in a sec, I'm going to share with you like what types of thought leadership platforms there are, what the benefits are, because there's more benefits than you probably think. And then I'll talk to you. The third part is how to build your thought leadership platform. So let's dive into it. Step one really is making sure that you know who you serve. This is the part where Tate, the document that I gave you.
Yes.
So I have a podcast consulting company. We help podcasters, and I created a lead magnet, which you're not going to be needing a lead magnet. You're just going to get it for free because I just want you to have it. But it is important that you notice that this thing that you're going to get generally is more of a lead magnet for me. Only people that want it are my perfect avatar. So for example, this is a PDF that you're going to get that I usually use as a lead magnet that basically allows you to answer these questions and more. Tate, it's pretty in depth, right? Have you looked at it?
Yes, I have.
So it goes into geographics, demographics, and psychographics of you answering the question of your perfect avatar. Because that is step one before you ever create content, before you create a platform, before you write your book or start your meetup or start your podcast. Step one is to really understand who you're attracting. Most people make a mistake. In fact, like if you are trying to learn from the example of others in the multifamily real estate space that are raising money for syndication, 90% of them are making this mistake right here. So this is like ground zero, first step ever, and you need to make sure you're doing it right. What they are doing that's making it such a mistake is they are saying, I want to have passive investors. So they forget about serving their avatar and they just have a podcast. And then on the podcast, what they're doing is they're asking people like questions that they would benefit from, but not their avatar. So maybe they want passive money to be coming into their portfolio. And they're asking their guest, how did you find that deal? How did you raise money? How did you do all of these things for active investors? it's pretty obvious that the person who's interested in that podcast episode is an active investor who doesn't really want to be a passive investor. So you got to be thinking of this step first. What are they worried about? What keeps them up at night? Where do they go for fun? And if you take that paper, that PDF that you're going to be given here in a little bit, it's going to benefit you a ton. Once you understand and identify your avatar, here's a guy, I'm trying to remember his name, from High Speed Alliance, Forrest. Oh, it's down here. Forrest Bryant. I forgot that I wrote it down. Okay, Forrest Bryant. He's a dentist, and check out how he's writing this first sentence. Most doctors work hard caring for their patients and their families, but despite good incomes, they are frustrated with being unable to achieve their dreams. Uncertainty in the stock market makes saving for retirement or child's education pretty scary. So he's went through his avatar checklist that you guys are all going to have one. He's went through that, identifying what keeps them up at night, what they're worried about, who they are, exactly the job title that they have, the demographics, the psychographics, and he is speaking their language. And once you do this, once you speak their language and they say, she gets me, she knows what I'm going through, he gets me, he understands me, that's when they decide that they're going to be part of what you're doing. And another step is lead magnets. So here's an example. Here's a guide that our team has done. You know, it's a vetting lead magnet. We say you need to vet your investments. So we teach you how to do it. And then we told our people, just text this word to this phone number and you'll get it for free. So that's an example of a lead magnet. Here's another way to get leads as well. Running webinars. You might be able to have a whole list of the people that are interested in that topic that what is the word, that RSVP'd for it. You have a list of the people that came to it and the people that took action, right? So this is a way that you can get those that information. And I want you to remember this part. Again, if you're thinking about your avatar and your avatar is that you want to raise money from high net worth individuals, you got to be in your lead magnets. You've got to be answering the questions that they want to know, like tax strategies, for example. Not necessarily, how did you find that deal? What did you do to replace the roof? Or how did you raise the money? These are more things that your opposite, the counterpart, the opposite person is looking for. So please think about some content that you might be able to do, like take a few minutes, feel free to type it in. Remember, Tony Robbins says, if you are engaged, that's how you're going to learn. So take a sec to actually comment a few things that you think you could use as a lead magnet or content to start attracting your avatar over the next 7 days. Everybody, please spend that time. You're going to get a lot of value out of it. This is one of those things where you get almost no value if you don't do it, and you get tons of value if you do. Take a second and actually think, what kind of content, how can you add value to your avatar? Who is your avatar? What do they want? What are they struggling with? What do they need? How can you deliver it to them through content on a Facebook post, on a checklist, on a flow chart, on a white paper? How can you solve a problem for your perfect avatar? Let's see what people are saying. All right. There's so many. Should content, how wide, narrow should your content be to attract your avatar? Kenneth, I'll definitely get to your question. teach techies about 401k investing, real estate. Awesome, Glenn. Thank you. Attorney's Guide to Passive Income. Good one, Nancy. Love it. Teaching investors, developers about building sustainable buildings. Awesome. That'd be great. Maybe Jonathan, if your lead magnet is meant to have people learn how to build buildings, like you're not raising money, but you have a coaching program around sustainable buildings or something like that, then that's going to be a perfect lead magnet for that. But probably not the best way to get people to passively invest, right? So always be considerate of that. Like, who's your avatar? What do they need? How do you help them solve this problem? And so if Jonathan, if he is teaching people how to build sustainable buildings, like, that's perfect. But if he wants passive investors, we probably need to rethink it and like tweak it a little.
Yeah. So for me, I have an architecture side of my business where this is to attract other developers to kind of use my architecture services and kind of get connected with them.
Good.
But I totally see what you're saying about the whole investor side and raising capital.
Awesome. Awesome. Mom and pop, single family investors scaling into multifamily. That's great. And if you want passive investors, Kenneth, maybe it's not how to scale into multifamily. Maybe it's how to stop trading time for dollars. Maybe it's more of, hey, you're a mom and pop, you're putting 50,000 down to buy one of these types of deals. You're getting a 1% cap rate. Well, if you instead become a passive investor, then you're going to be able to have that scalability. You're going to be able to do it without your time. So it's a little bit different messaging if you're specifically looking for a passive investor. I'm going to stop going through angels and senates, but I'm going to go to the next slide. So just remember, don't forget all of this other stuff and just go straight to the invest. Don't just say, if you got a good deal, money automatically comes. Let's focus on some of these other things. So let me pass through. Okay. Please share your examples of thought leadership platforms. What thought leadership platforms do you know exist? While you're doing that, let's see. Yachty Guide to Real Estate Investing. Podcasts, meetup groups, ebooks. Tate, those are good. Podcasts, yes, that counts. Meetups, yes. Ebooks, yes. Blogs, yes. Kyle, podcasts, yes. Senate, podcast, blog, meetup, courses, book, yes. Angel, educational platform, awesome. Podcasts, meetups, boot camps, awesome. Seminars, awesome. Webinars, yes. Summits, yes. Tate, conferences and summits. So let's see how we did. Public speaking at events, all good. So here's my examples of thought leadership platform. Hosting a podcast, hosting events, whether online or offline. Now these, by the way, when I say hosting events, these are conferences, these are meetup groups, these are webinars, these are virtual meetup groups, these are all of these things. Facebook Lives, where you're coming together with people. These are Zoom recordings, webinars, etc. Hosting events. Meetups are a great example. Hosting a YouTube, authoring a book, online courses, blogs. So it looks like we mostly said the same thing. Tate's got, speaking at other people's events. That's another great way to add influence. And one thing that I'll suggest is, if you are a podcast host or an author of a book or something, you run a blog. If you already have influence, if you already have a thought leadership platform, speaking at other people's events, speaking on other people's podcasts, on their YouTube channels, being part of their books. I've been a part of a couple of people's books. They were like, hey, can you just write a chapter? I'm like, hell yeah, I don't even have to write a whole book. I can just write a chapter, give it to me, and then I'll be standing on your shoulders. You'll do all the work on promoting it. Online courses. These are all really good examples of what a thought leadership platform is. What are the benefits? Guys, help me out. What do you think are a couple of benefits that you will get because you have a thought leadership platform? How will that leverage support your goals? Credibility, Kyle says. Growing a mailing list, Kyle says. Kenneth says building a brand. More connections, Tate says. Credibility, Tate says. Connections, Jonathan says. Positioning, Angel says. Exposure, says Glenn. Developing great long-term relationships. These are all awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So here's some benefits. You get to leverage the internet. You get to leverage these platforms. For example, when you're doing a thought leadership platform, you record one thing one time, and it can go on Apple and Stitcher and iHeart and YouTube and Spotify and Google Play, and keep naming them. Apple, Amazon, Alexa. It can be placed in so many different places so that you're going to be more likely to be found. So that's a huge thing. You get, you can leverage these platforms. You can leverage the internet, searchability, search engine optimization, leverage your time, do it once, and it keeps going. For example, if you did an online course, you record it one time, and then it's up for anyone to watch anytime that they want. You have the capability of growing exponentially, meaning that people will be talking about your content. This is so critically important that you remember this piece. You want people to talk about you when you're not in the room. So if you're putting out great content, this is how people are going to invite you to speak at their meetup group. They're going to invite you on their podcast. They're going to invite you to their, for example, let me share one thing that I did. I had 2 people come to me over the last couple of weeks saying that they wanted to invest in a deal. I said, I don't have a deal. So I put a Facebook ad, a Facebook post, and just asked who had deals. And anyone that I believed in and trusted, and they had a deal right now, I just basically put them in touch with these 2 passive investors. So if you have a thought leadership platform, if you're somebody that people can recognize your name, you're more likely to get referrals of passive investors, even when you're not around. So you close more deals, you'll have more money in the bank, you'll have more time freedom,
2 days.
and your mom is going to be happy, and your spouse is happy. So if you have a thought leadership platform, life is good. All right. So how do you start? Anyone have any ideas of how to start a thought leadership platform? Can you throw some ideas in the chat? So far, you guys have been nailing it. Just do it, Angel says. I like that. Just start. Pick a niche, Kenneth says. Contact AAA. Thanks, Kyle. Thank you, Chelsea. All right, so let's jump in. How do you start? Here's some tangible steps. Write them down or take a screenshot. Do not miss these. Identify your avatar. Step 1. Write it down, please. Identify your avatar. And then this is a separate step. Understand your avatar. Here's what you do. You think of who is the best person that's ever given me money for a deal, or who's the best client that I've ever worked with. Who's the, I think it was Jonathan who had one of his businesses was helping other contractors, for example. So he's like identifying who that is. It's current contractors. That's the identification. That's who his avatar is. But then another separate step is that he has to understand them. He has to spend some time using that template that I gave you for the psychographics, demographics, geographics, and how your own niche works in order to be able to serve them at the fullest. So first identify them, then spend time asking yourself about like questions about them. And then you're going to be able to create your platform. So like Kenneth, pick a niche. Honestly, should have just pick a niche, should have been like identify your avatar, understand your avatar. And then it should have been pick a niche. And then the fourth one should be create a platform. So if you guys are making notes, make that change. First pick your niche, then create the platform. Just do it, like Angel said. What else do you need if you have a thought leadership platform? A lead magnet. You've got to create a lead magnet. Now, I've already given you a couple of examples of lead magnets. For my podcast coaching company, I've created several lead magnets. One of them teaches you how do you grow a podcast? Another lead magnet says, how do you automate the process of editing and post-production? Another lead magnet is, how do you find your perfect target avatar? And I even have a fourth one and a fifth one as well. But I create these lead magnets. And I want to brainstorm with you what your lead magnet could be. Do you remember how I had a lead magnet that it taught you how to like underwrite a deal? Well, another few examples that you could have is, how do you ask the right questions to your operator? You're the operator. How do you, as a passive investor, ask the right questions to the operator of the deal to make sure you're not going to lose money? Because you're thinking, what is this person worried about? You've identified your avatar. It's an attorney. If you are, who was that who said that? How did I miss it? So many people. I need to scroll up. Wasn't Kyle, wasn't Senate, wasn't Angel. Nancy, it was Nancy. So for example, yeah, Nancy, she had an attorney. So she identifies that. Then she wants to understand, what is the attorney worried about? And then she picks a niche, and then she creates the platform, and then she starts creating this lead magnet for them. And she already said she just created one for attorneys, so that passive income for attorneys, I think it was called something similar to that. And so it's calling them out. It's speaking to the right person exactly. They're likely to want to get on your list. Other examples might be, how do you make sure that you're investing in the right market? Some markets have a headwind, some markets have a tailwind. How do you know if you're investing in a market where you're going to get wasted growth, wasted efforts, or if you have a tailwind that you're going to be able to grow? So you can create these types of things for your avatar. And then I want you to embrace automation. So text this word to this number, or use IFTTT, if this, then that. It's a website that like connects things, or Zapier, which also automates and connects things. So if something happens, if this happens, then this other thing automatically happens. So I want you to embrace that, because you're doing this now at scale. You're going to be having lots and lots of people following you, and you don't want to have to be doing all the work individually. Imagine just batching cookies or cooking 12 cookies separately. One way, you get it all done in 30 to 60 minutes. This is from like picking out the flour, the sugar, putting them all together, etc. And the other way is doing all that, but cooking one at a time. So embrace the automation, make it a little bit easier. Here's a piece that a lot of people forget when they start, is marketing. So you want to, you'll be doing some self-promotion type things. You'll do collaborations, you'll do emails, you'll do paid advertising, etc. the last one on how to start is just to stay consistent with what you're doing. So take a screenshot of this, or take a photo of it, make sure you have all of that. And I'm going to unshare my screen in about 10 seconds and we can just do Q&A. So hopefully everybody's gotten their pictures, because as soon as I can figure this out, I'm unsharing my screen. Let's see. How do I unshare my screen, guys?
Green button at the top, or red says stop share.
Oh, it's there. There it is. It's back here. Hold on one sec. Okay. It wasn't at the top because I was sharing a screen. So it was like this tiny little thing hiding behind 3 things. Cool. Any questions that you guys have about like starting a thought leadership platform, which one to use? Let's just spend some time pouring into you individually. Another thing that I love talking about is how to utilize social media the right way so that your thought leadership platform can grow a lot faster. If I could brag about one cool thing, is I was recognized by Meetup as one of the top Meetup organizers in the world. In 2018, I think, I got to speak at Meetup headquarters. They flew me in and I got to meet people from all around the whole world. And I'm not even that special, but I'll tell you what I did is I used social media to grow my Meetup. Same thing with my podcast. It got into the top 1% of all podcasts worldwide. And it was because of social media. So if anybody has questions on how to grow a thought leadership platform, how to start one, let's do it. Let me see if I can find that one question that was up earlier. There's a lot of scrolling. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm scrolling back here and looking for. If anybody wants to repost questions in the chat, they can too as well, and we can answer them.
Yeah, let's do that. For the person who had that question, it was a good question.
Oh, here we go. We got something from Senate. How do you feel about podcasts as a service? For example, done for you services.
Okay, Senate, are you able to chat? Are you able to talk?
Yeah.
Are you asking if you, so you're basically like, I'm Senate, I want to start serving podcasters. Do you think that's a good niche for me to be in?
No, let me
Okay.
clarify. So
All right.
becoming a podcast, or starting a podcast, quite frankly, is very daunting.
Okay.
And you know as well as anyone that there's a lot of steps to be done. Well, there's a company in my town. You show up at their office, you record their podcast, you leave. They do everything else.
Yeah. What do I think of that? I love it. I love it. Yeah. So, you know, what's funny? I just got in trouble. Let me get my sweater for you so you can see this. I know I'm being recorded, but I just got in trouble with some type of violation, and it's my attorney's fault. I asked him 7 months ago to get this branded and trademarked. Press record, we handle the rest at the top there. And somebody freaking did that in the end of July, not even 6-7 weeks ago, way after I did that. But we had it as press record, you handle the rest. Now you guys can't steal this. I'm trying to trademark the easy button for podcasters. So at any rate, to answer your question, that company, my company, any other company that does that, I think you should be hiring somebody. And the reason I started doing it that way is because it is so freaking daunting. Like you said, Senate, like having to do all of these things is quite a bit. So what we do, you don't even have to go to an office. You can do it at your own office. You just press record, it goes to the cloud. My team will download it, edit it, throw the intro, the outro. Tate, is Tate on?
Yep.
I don't see you. Oh, there you are, right in the middle.
Here, I'll pin me.
So Tate, do you like total done for you services?
Yes.
Did you start that way?
No. And now I mean, I could not live without it, honestly. It's been life-changing to outsource everything except for the recording of the podcast and booking the guests.
Senate Whitney Sewell started outsourcing from the very get-go. He would record 8 to 12 episodes once a week, and everything would go to somebody else and they would do it. Joe Fairless started that way. Joe Fairless literally started out with Theo Hicks doing all of that stuff for him and being able to come on one episode a week as part of his as payment, you know, because I think he was doing it for free. I didn't start that way. I edited 300 of my 600 plus episodes before I gave it off. And it was stressful. It sucked. I didn't know if I was a podcaster or a real estate investor, right? So at any rate, I believe in it. I think you should do it. And whatever company that you feel comfortable with, if they do a good job for you, I just support you in that. And anyone else, it's like you're writing a book, hire a ghostwriter if you can, get as much of that stuff off of your plate as possible. I highly agree with that. Kenneth asked, how wide or narrow should your content be to attract your avatar? Kenneth, I think in general, my answer would be very niched, very narrow, very focused. Once you truly understand your avatar, you got to be thinking about what is his or her issues, what's keeping him or her up at night or them up at night. What are they looking for? What do they want to achieve? What's holding them back? These are all questions in the avatar checklist that you're getting for free, and I don't even need your email for it. So just Tate will give that stuff to you, and I really want you to use it. You're going to get a lot out of it. So how narrow? I personally think that your avatar should be narrow, and the content for the avatar should be narrow. I'm not one to believe in any benefits of speaking to everyone. If you're trying, write this down. Every single person, please put this in the chat. Every person. If you're trying to speak to everybody, you're really speaking to nobody. If your goal is to appease everyone and please everyone, you're going to get nobody. Nobody's going to listen to your podcast. Nobody's going to care about your content. It's too generalized. It needs to be specific. So please write that down. If you're trying to talk to everybody, you're speaking to nobody. How do you feel about podcasts as a service? Okay, we answered that one. I started my podcast using someone else. Even if I tried learning how, I would still only be a beginner and I would waste a ton of time. So Angel, you've got a podcast and you started in the beginning by offloading that stuff. Is that right? Okay.
Super smart.
And go ahead, Tate.
I was just going to say, if I could just speak to the whole daunting aspect of the using that, you sent it. I think it was you that used that word. That is the exact word that I used when I was thinking about starting the podcast. And really, I was in another session like this with Adam, and he was talking about all this and sitting in the same place you are going. That sounds like a ton of work. And I can tell you this, two things. Number one, even when I was self-producing, it wasn't as much work as I thought it was going to be. Although it was a ton of work, and it was a lot of hours because you're editing and listening, re-listening and listening and listening. But it wasn't, and number two, I enjoyed it 10x more than I thought I would. I like pretty much every aspect of doing it. I really, really enjoy as far as working with the guests and the guest interaction and getting value out to the listener is really a fun challenge. So just consider that it, number one, may not be as daunting as it sounds. I mean, it's still going to be work, right? I'm not trying to paint that picture, but And number two, it may not be as daunting as it sounds. And I can't forget what so my second point was there earlier, but anyway, like, you know, I was in a mastermind with Corey Peterson, and he looked at all of us at one point and he's like, you guys are paying me a lot of money to be here, and I'm here to tell you that every single one of you guys should have a podcast. And I'm not saying that everybody in this meeting should have a podcast, but everybody in this meeting should be producing thought leadership content, in my opinion, like on the regular. So I'll throw it back to you, Adam, with that.
Yeah, well, I fully believe in the power of leverage that a thought leadership platform can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
So every single person in here should go back to this slide that had like the examples of thought leadership platform. It had podcast, it had YouTube, it had book, it had blog, it had a couple others as well. I truly mean it. Like, if you want to raise 50 grand or 100 grand, you probably don't need a podcast. If you want to raise 5 million, 10 million, 30 million, 100 million, you cannot do it without a thought leadership platform. It's not even possible. Especially if I could go back to Mike, you remember the guy whose name isn't really Mike, but I said, don't be like Mike. He told me that, and he was frustrated about this when he told me. He's like, I've been syndicating for years. Like, we're closing on our, I think it was like 7th or 8th deal right now. I've been doing this for a long time. And frankly, what he said was, all of my passive investors already invested their money with, and he named a few podcasters, some of whom had never done a deal. It might have been unsafe to invest in a couple of those deals. But this guy who had syndicated for a long time no longer can syndicate because his clients are going after the squeaky wheel. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. What's another way to say the squeaky wheel gets the grease? The podcaster, the influencer gets the money. So.
Boom.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What if your podcast content is not related to real estate? That's still something you advocate for?
You have a podcast, or are you about to start a podcast?
Well, I've had an idea for a long time, but it's not real estate related at all.
Are you willing to talk about it? Offline, maybe?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know until I know, but
There.
I think that it's possible.
It's a bit thought-provoking, I guess, which is what slowed me down on starting it, especially like really getting into real estate. I don't want to it's not in no way would it ever be intended to offend anyone, but if someone disagrees, I don't want that to be the reason that they don't want to invest. That's
going to happen, man. So everybody, like, he's doing something more thought-provoking, right? So he's like, for lack of, I don't know what he's doing yet, but let's just pretend like it's controversial, racial, political, something about religion, whatever. Let's just pretend it's one of those, hot topics that are tough sometimes to hear, and everybody's got an opinion about it. Regardless of your approach and what you're talking about, you're always going to lose investors. Like, this is so hard to explain, but it's not. You shouldn't have fear of missing out. You should understand that. I had somebody come to me. His podcast is something about leadership. He's actually a client. I don't know why I can't remember his podcast name. something about like, it's called authentic leadership. I think the tagline is for real people. Okay. So this guy named Dino is a client of ours, and he's talking about how his content is exactly what he got from Tony Robbins, and that Tony Robbins got from, I think it's, I can't remember the guy's name, but Robbins got it from his mentor, who got it from his mentor. And Dino said that he listened to the generations back, like the 4 or 5 mentors ago, and it was like the identical stuff. But he didn't like the accent of one of the guys. He didn't like the abrasiveness of another guy. He didn't like the cussing of another guy. And so he preferred to learn it from this other person. And it's the same thing. Like, you are going to have a different voice from every other human, similar to like with relationships. Some people believe in love at first sight, or like a soulmate. Like, there's a person who just totally gets you. They don't mind any of that you pick your nose, or that you do the wrong thing with the toothpaste or the toilet lid. They don't mind these things, that you don't wear a shirt around the house. But other people are like, ugh, they do this with the toilet lid, but that one person gets you, and they love you despite your flaws, your differences. You're going to have a few, for lack of a better term, you're going to have a handful of what is the word for it? Sorry. You're going to have a handful of people that overlook some things because you say it better, you resonate with them. And so, like Scott just said, do you. Be unique. Have your own special voice, and own your voice. If you're trying to talk to everybody, Jonathan, you're going to talk to nobody. So you may as well like have your opinions, share your opinions. Now, honestly, I don't talk about like religion all the time, or politics like ever publicly, because I'm not even that opinionated on that stuff. Like, I could pretty much care less. So there's no reason for me to take a stance. And I would certainly lose some people, if I did. But those things aren't even that important to me. So there are other things that are important to me. For example, one thing that's important is that there's a fallacy out there that keeps being told by many people. Just because you have a good deal means you automatically can raise all the money you ever wanted. So I draw my line in the sand, Jonathan, and I show people that's that way, and you can stay on that side. It's cool. I don't mind. A lot of people think that way, or you can come on my side of the sand, of this line that I've drawn in the sand. Like, we'll use this guy named as an example. Can everyone say That's the guy's name. He's I
think I know him.
You know him. Perfect. So he's a caveman from a long time ago. This is a fictitious story, I think, based on true events, I'm sure. So finds fire. He was the first person to ever figure out fire, and he controlled fire, and he made a fire, and he thought it was so rad, and he was like cooking water and being able to make the water so it was cleaner. He's able to cook the meat. He's able to cook vegetables and make them taste a little bit different. Was so excited. And he went to the chief, the only chief back then. And he was like, hey, everybody, look what I did. And the chief was afraid of fire. He's like, no, that could hurt us. That's scary. You don't want to play with that stuff. What if it burns up the whole whatever? How do you know that you can control it? What if it's the devil? And so he freaked out, but drew a line in the sand, and he said, look, I think this is a better way. Y'all want to stay over there, that's cool. But anyone who wants to come with me and make fire and reap the benefits of that can step across. And about half the cave people stepped over on the other side, and he became an influencer. He became a new chief when it was brand new. I fully think that you need to draw your line in the sand and be okay with not appeasing every single person. Let some people stay on their side, but you've got your niche, your way of looking at it, the people that you support, and you're going to do plenty well.
That's gold right there. It's good stuff. Right
Thank
on.
you. I appreciate that very much.
Of course.
Well, anybody else have a last question for Adam before we thank him and do a few little power breakout groups here, breakout rooms? You got Adam AAA Adams on, guys. Come on, we got to ask him at least one last question. Somebody's got a good one out there. Adam, I'll ask you this, since you're,
Sure.
I know you really have your finger on the pulse of the podcast industry right now. What do you see the future of thought leadership and podcasting, and do you see anything on the horizon that may pop into this space at all?
For podcasting, I love that question. Okay. There's a lot that I probably should have gotten into a little bit earlier. But with Tate asking, like, what are we seeing with podcasting? There's a couple reasons why you probably want to podcast right now. One of the first reasons, please write this down. If you're on right now, you're lucky, because like this is some gold. This is really beneficial for you. One thing about podcasting is that there is very little competition compared to some of the other things like blogs. There's way more blogs than there are podcasts. Like YouTube channels, I think it's currently at like 22 times the amount of YouTube channels there are as podcasts. So your competition is lower. Now there is 2.7 million podcasts, so there's still a lot, but the competition compared to like blogs and books and YouTube channels, you're going to be swimming downstream instead of upstream by having a podcast. The next big thing that you have to know about podcasting is that the listeners have a higher level of income and time freedom than with YouTube and some of these other platforms. So podcasters, think about the average listener. They probably listen to podcasts for a couple of reasons. They're time efficient. They're the type of people that like to be able to do more than one thing, kill two birds with one stone. So they're on a run while they're listening to you. They're cooking or cleaning while they're listening to you. They're on a drive, they're on a vacation, traveling at the airport. They've downloaded your episodes and they push play while they're listening to you. They have a higher percentage of money than on other platforms. So another huge reason that you probably would want to have a podcast. Other things that you just want to know is that podcasting algorithms, just like YouTube algorithms, just like every social media platform, these algorithms change all the time. So something that you'll want to note is how we talked about it being so important that you had a lead magnet when you're a podcaster. It's important for a lot of reasons. Okay. Let's just say that cussing is normal on your podcast, but you forget one time to put the explicit sign on. Your whole podcast gets taken down. And now you have no platform. So it's just important to remember about like how helpful it is to have a lead magnet, how helpful it is to be able to control that message with the people that are your true fans. So definitely want you to have a lead magnet. Please think about that. Please consider it. Scott, You ask, what's my biggest influence? Gary Vee is a big influence for me. And I don't even think everybody on this podcast today probably knows him, but probably more than half of you do. Gary Vee, what I like about him and why he resonates with me is that he comes from a place of giving all the time, just like Tate. He comes from a place in his heart of, I just want to make the world a better place. I just want to help and support. Tate's not always looking for, how does this benefit me? You know, Gary Vee's not always worried about, how does this benefit me? And I'm inspired by people like that. It makes me want to be a better person. It makes me want to learn and grow. And I love this piece on Gary Vee. He has this book that he ended up, it got titled Jab, Jab, Right Hook. But when he was trying to write the book with his publishers, he told them he won't publish it unless it's called Jab, 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 lost more jabs, and then a right hook, because he wanted it to be where it was like add value all the effing time. And every now and again, you throw in that right hook or that, you know, that call to action. So that's something that I've gained a lot from Gary Vee. Of course, I'm incredibly impressed with Joe Fairless and everything that he's been able to accomplish through with him, his coaches, his partners. He's been able to do some remarkable things. And, you know, my mom's always been honest with me, and it makes me feel like I can be more of an honest, vulnerable, transparent person. So those are a couple. Life is what you give, not what you get. 100% agree with that. Love Gary Vee. I've never thought of it in that way. Gold, and great presentation. Appreciate y'all. You guys need to go network. That's what this is all about. Go connect, make money with each other. I better jump off. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much, Adam. Everybody give Adam a hand.
Thank you, man.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Right on. Well, guys, that's like hopefully just a lot of, you know, game-changing sort of impactful input into your business and into your business model and into your vision for what you're creating. You know, podcasting is not the only way to do this. Like Scott Kidd has a meetup group, and it's right in his niche. Scott's a yacht captain, and he has a meetup group for other yacht captains, basically in the real estate space. So, you know, think about where you are already a leader. Think about what you already have to offer of value, and you know, consider really capitalizing and niching down in that inside of that space. So, so with that, Chelsea, you have anything before we do a breakout room here?
No, we got about a little less than a half hour left. So maybe we can squeeze in two,
Yep.
8-minute, 10-minute breakout rooms.
Yep. I think that's what we're looking at here. So, so yeah, you know, as I say every week, really the space to come from, like the most strategic space in life, I think, to come from is a space of contribution, a space of value add. Like, and so if you know, when you're in these rooms with 3-4 other people and you're listening to them and other people talk about their business and what they're up to, think about what you may have of value to them in the way of a resource or a tip or a connection, or whatever that you can bring to the table of value to whoever is sharing, and that everybody wins that way. And that's how, you know, Greenlight's gotten to be where we are is from a value add perspective, really, in just about all aspects of our business. So, so with that, go ahead and get these breakout rooms rolling. Where my menu here? That's weird. There's usually, we might be doing like one big. Oh, here we go. Okay. We'll do. All right. Here we go, everybody.
Oh boy, we're being recorded.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, guys.
Hey, Tate.
Good to see you tonight. Jonathan.
Yeah, I made it.
Yeah, man, you made it. East Coast.
East Coast. Yep.
Burning the midnight oil out there. So is Scott Kidd.
Oh, look out.
Yeah, Eastern time zone, guys. So
Tate, your meetup's going global.
that's what happens when you do this virtual thing. You know, it's like there's no reason to keep it local, really. And as you guys know, like we don't even really shop a whole lot locally in Utah anymore, and we don't put any resources into our business out, you know, as far as finding deals out here. We'll definitely look at deals out here, but yeah, so yeah, I like the national aspect of
I really do too. Yeah.
Heston, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. It's been a bit.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been kind of slammed just with kind of going back and forth between here and Oregon and just trying to get deals done and refinances done and stuff. So it's been good though. No complaints.
Cool. Getting some good stuff done.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna close on the refinance on that 8-plex. We have a 9th and 9th next week.
Nice.
Appraisal came in like $300K over what we thought it would. So
Nice.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Hopefully parlay that cash
Very
into
good.
another deal. Yeah. So yeah, just shopping as always.
Mhm.
Wholesale and single families and looking for the next good apartment deal.
Awesome.
Yeah. Other than that, same old, man. Looking at trying to get some stuff going up here too, and the market's pretty robust for it being such a non-landlord friendly state here, and their development and zoning laws are like insane. Like, I'm not sure if you guys heard, but like the whole state of Oregon actually did away with single family development. I mean, in some of the more tertiary markets, it's not quite as applicable, but like in Portland, if you tear down a single family house, they won't even let you build another single family house. They make you build like a twin home or a duplex or a 4-plex or something. So they really push development here in certain corridors. Like it's like opportunity zones on steroids. So there's a lot of value in those kind of mixed use properties and stuff. So especially with all this rezoning stuff going on. So typical entitlement deals and stuff like that. So just
is it only in Portland or is it other cities?
It's a statewide thing, but Portland is where they really crack down on it. Lake Oswego, which is where I actually live, is the only city I know that has essentially said they're not going to do it. Pretty much gave them the bird and said we'll build single families if we want, but that's going to go to court and stuff. So yeah, but from a development perspective, if you can get stuff for, $10K a door, pre-entitlement, I mean, it's a steal, right? So yeah, just trying to kind of bust into some of those other deals and shoot from a sniper, more or less. Educate. It's been like it's actually not as big of a learning curve as I thought it would be, as far as their like planning and zoning and figuring out kind of what their zoning laws are and stuff, just because it's so much more progressive than in Utah. Like
no concerns that Kate's gonna crush your business?
No, I don't worry about things like that, man. I'll lose all my hair and go bankrupt before I hit 30. So I don't worry about the economy crashing or any of that BS. I think it's all because those are the people that sit on the sidelines and don't do deals forever, So I'm not one of those guys. I continue to move regardless of the external factors. So I'm not really worried. I don't listen to the outside noise too much. Love it. A deal's a deal, right? If you get it for a good enough price, it's a deal. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I like that too. People have always made money in real estate in any type of market, right? Down market, sideways market.
look at what's happening with inflation. So I mean, at the end of the day, buy real estate and wait. Don't wait to buy real estate. That'll never change.
Yeah, hedge against inflation. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's just going to sit in a bank account and be worthless. So if I can get some cash flow off it and some upside, there's a lot of opportunity and tremendous amount of money getting thrown around up here, as well as in Salt Lake and everywhere between. So a lot of different opportunities, kind of looking to expand some of that stuff and just keep growing.
That's awesome.
How are things going with you guys? You guys have been crushing it out in Ohio, it looks like, just buying deals left and right.
Yeah, things that we've got 3 communities under contract right now. And it's a daily sprint, honestly. Like it's a daily 8, 9, 10 hour sprint.
Yeah.
Feels like,
That's good though, man. That's good. Good to hear.
Yeah.
How's the stuff you guys already own there going?
It's honestly, it's a little rough. We picked a bad PM on our one portfolio deal, our Class C portfolio, and they really I can't say it other than this. They really shat the bed. Like, yeah, it really made a mess of the place. And so we've got a new PM in there that's cleaning things up. But these Class C minus reposition where you got to go in and turn the whole tenant base over, that's the real deal. That's a heavy lift.
So tell me about it. That's what that 8-plex was. I can't even imagine it with 70 or however many you guys have. So I screwing up on the man. I mean, you live and learn, right?
Yeah.
What did they do?
But that sucks. Yeah. Was it more of a vacancy thing, or were they not able to push rents to where you wanted, or just a combination
they just
of
were
everything?
Completely negligent. There were common area doors that were missing and that they said they'd be replacing, that went weeks and weeks without, trash all over the property all the time, in spite of them saying that they'd be, doing mitigation and walk through. Example after example. We had 55 open work orders when we took over, when we had the new PM take over in a 70-unit building.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, pretty crazy. But
what's their name so I know to avoid them?
It's ERA. Well, it's a branch of ERA Property Management in Columbus, Ohio. Donnie Thompson. I don't mind telling you guys, because I wouldn't wish him on my worst enemy. I mean, not a bad human being, just willfully negligent on the job. So Jonathan, you real quick want to talk about, give us a little, 60-second
sure
insight into what you do. I know what you do, what you're up to, but you guys don't.
So I heard Tate's podcast, and then I actually talked to him earlier today, and then he invited me here, so that's pretty awesome. But so I am an architect from Philadelphia, and I also have contractor experience. So I've been flipping houses for other people, started flipping them for myself, and now I'm trying to break into the multifamily. And so I have I know how to find the deals, I know how to design them and have contractors build them. My biggest hiccup right now is just kind of connecting with investors and raising capital, because that's just a side that I don't come from. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And I also focus on sustainable design and development as well. That's part of my niche. And then they're all in urban, dense areas of cities, essentially.
It is.
Yeah,
so that's me in a nutshell.
I think it's exciting what you got with your niche, man. And like I was telling you earlier, putting together these deals is really of the premium in terms of getting a good deal with a good OM and a good pro forma put together under contract, under your control. That's a starting point. And Adam is like, I agree with him 100%. And that when he says that he's, that, if you have a good deal, the money will come. He disagrees with that. I disagree with it too. Like, it's not that simple. But I do like starting with a deal first approach. He would probably disagree with me on that. And anyway, so like, and you also need a sponsor, right? Like a key principle.
If I'm depending on the size of it, yeah. So if I'm
Okay.
trying to build like it might seem small to you guys, like a 30-unit building, I would like to have a sponsor.
Yeah.
I've just been flipping singles myself. Like on the architecture side, when I work for other people before I have my own business, I would design these like 6-unit master plans of like 400 units, all kinds of like crazy stuff. But then when you start your own development, you're like, oh, I bought this single family house. And then, you know what I mean? So it's kind of just like building back up to where I am on the architecture end.
Yeah.
It's kind of the challenge. And then just making sure I don't have too many hats, because that gets, pretty time consuming, and, it's kind of focused on one niche area. That's why earlier I was saying I stopped being a general contractor, because it was consuming most of my time, and it's a bottleneck if I develop a contractor system and then end up having to, do a 30-unit building, but I don't have that infrastructure built, so it's a bottleneck for growth. So I decided to do away with that and just do architecture and development, and then just get out and meet people and just keep trying that whole game.
Yep. You're in the right place. Can you guys think of anything in the last 30 seconds we have here for Jonathan in the way of, he's got the deal flow, needs access to more investors and more capital sources?
I just get into more meetup groups, meet more people, get out there and talk to more people that are like-minded. You'll find them.
You can access all of these people are going to be on LinkedIn here tonight, so you can always find them there too.
Sorry, Paul, we cut you off.
No worries.
We should give Paul the stage for like 30 seconds to introduce himself, because
Yes, we should.
a really special guest here this evening.
Yes.
No.
Yes. I insist.
Anyway, my name is Paul Winterroad. As I was just beginning to chat with my breakout group, really immersed in the multifamily space by day. I'm a multifamily mortgage broker, so work with literally dozens of different funding sources. I could say hundreds, but we don't work with all of them, but have access to many throughout the country. Done deals really from the coast to coast. The bulk have been nationwide. I'm based here in Salt Lake City. I should say the bulk have been in Utah, probably about half in Utah and half outside, but specialize in kind of bridge to permanent financing in the agency HUD space, but we also do when they're necessary. Also love to invest in multifamily, and I've done it on a small scale as a general partner and also as a limited partner. And looking to do more of all of it. So I don't want to get too confusing with what I do, but it's I love the space, and it's exciting, and it continues to grow and be profitable, and it's just feel very blessed to be in this world.
Paul, you're the best, and we love working with you on deals and having you be an investor as well. Do us a favor, put your info in the chat, because we're going to share that with everybody in the group this evening.
Sure.
I highly recommend, if you're working on a deal, that you reach out to Paul and his team. He'll help you see it through the finish line for sure. And Paul was actually one of our first guests on the Meetup group when we started. I don't know, what was it, 7 or 8 months ago?
Yeah, that's good.
You gave a great presentation.
Yeah, it was awesome. and he's been on the podcast twice. Both of those episodes are great archive episodes for reference, for good stuff.
Double
Guys,
digit.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was just joking. Double digit downloads, right?
That's right. I was up double digit. For sure. All right. Well, let's do one more quick one here, and then we'll call it a night. So yeah, let's just bust into another little breakout room here again. Just do 2. What's that? I will do 3. All right.
He's also from New York. And I just did my 10 unit in Kansas City, and we talked about the Midwest markets because I know they're, looking in the Oklahoma City, Tulsa market. So yeah, that's me. As I say, as I call myself, a recovering single family guy going into multifamily.
I love that. Recovering single family. That's great.
Yeah, I'd love to follow up on that. I'm a Pennsylvania guy and started in single family in Pennsylvania as well. So I'm in Utah now, but we could definitely commiserate on Pennsylvania single family investing. But I'm in multifamily now, trying to get more and more each day, but made the plunge and we've been selling all of our Philly area single families into this crazy single family market. So at least maybe not my favorite business ever, but at least the market gave us a great time to get out of it. So happy to be in multi.
Glad to have you here, Kyle. It's awesome to get to say hi to you yesterday and connect this morning via email. I'll be following up with you here in the next day or so on that.
Perfect.
Okay. Awesome. Heston was in the breakout room with me before. Jonathan's on my team, and I'm sure you guys may have talked a little bit before in the last breakout room with him. So, but Heston, you want to introduce yourself to these guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was just finishing some dinner. Yeah, my name is Heston. I'm born and raised in Salt Lake. Currently split time between there and up in Oregon, just outside of Portland. My girlfriend got into law school up here. So those are kind of the two markets where I'm boots on the ground and also actively looking at deals. Yeah, other than that, I own some multifamily stuff. I've done a ton of single family transactions, less so now, pretty much just wholesale all that stuff so I can buy more multifamily. Just take all the active income and put it into apartments or self-storage, things like that. But at the end of the day, yeah, just looking to pretty much just focus strictly in the commercial space, obviously for a number of reasons, but commercial multifamily specifically, I'm best at finding deals, I guess. That's kind of, if I had a superpower, so to speak, it would be digging up deals that other people that I'm not competing for in most of the time. Yeah, so I like the idea of if you have a deal, the money's not always there, because it's true. I've had several properties under contract and I'm like, dude, this is a home run, and then you run it past a couple other people and you're like, wow, that's not as much of a home run as I thought. So anyways, I've been connected with some other people up here to kind of balance off that side of my business that are a little bit more aggressive and in depth with the underwriting portion of things. Not to say I'm not, but it's just not the best use of my time. So yeah, that's kind of what my business looks like and what I do.
Is that where you invest? Is in Oregon?
I don't own anything here. No, everything I own is Salt Lake City, East Side, kind of 9th and 9th area. I've got like 29 units there. And then other than that, I just wholesale everything. And I'm actually buying a new primary residence next week. That's why I'm coming back this weekend into next week. So yeah, just
Nice.
other than that, everything I currently own is there, but kind of negotiating with some other deals up here with some sellers on some properties that have they're more or less just development opportunities. So just more or less trying to get these under contract and go sell them to a developer. But based off of talking with the guy, could be a 6-figure payday easy. So yeah, other than that, that's about it.
Yeah, Tate can tell you all about land entitlement.
Yeah, I'm not looking to do that necessarily. I'm more like, hey, you can either buy me out fully. Here's my price. I have a contract. You can take it, or you can give me a portion and wrap me in on the equity. I'd rather have less money up front.
Yeah.
And equity in the road. That's how I play things. And I'm not really on the large syndicator side as like Tate and them are. I like to go find one money guy and say, I'll split the deal with you 50-50. And most people say you're insane. How have you even been able to get that? But that's just, I work with a small group of people and it's a win for them. So I'm not as big of a net caster, so to speak. I'm content with the 10 unit, the 8 unit, I'll do a 5 unit as long as I can get commercial financing on it. I don't really give a shit. So as long as I can get some of those assets, I want to grow the portfolio and have 100 million under management one day. But like, as of right now, I'm fine with just buying a couple of these a year and having substantial amounts of equity in them instead of, a skinny piece of the GP. Down the road, obviously, I might do some more of those deals, but for now, I need to, just kind of have a larger share of the, a larger piece of the pie is a better way to put it, just because it supports my investing thesis a lot better for long-term growth.
Do you self-manage or you use a PM?
No. Yeah, I PM all day. I manage the contracting on this last 8 unit that we did. It took us like 15 months to do the lift, heavy lift. Section 8 housing before, we put like $30K a door into it and ran into every problem you could imagine. Got shut down, red tag from the city for 4 years, had to extend our bridge loan twice. Again, everything you can name, but it appraised for $300K more than we thought it would. So, I mean, at the end of the day, plus now brokers actually, and not only that, but mom and pop landlords actually take you seriously when you own something. Nobody will give you the time of day when you don't own anything, in my experience. So if anything, it just looks better on my balance sheet and people take me a little bit more credibly. But again, like I said, I hold things kind of to my network. If I find a good deal, I'll just take it to just go down the list, but I really usually don't have to, because I try not to waste my time on deals that aren't home runs. I'm different than kind of most. I mean, on the wholesale side, I'll go do just little single family wholesales, but at the end of the day, I'm not as involved. I'm more involved in that now than I should be, but over the next few months, I'll be kind of transitioning out fully so I can just focus on multifamily. Because I can find the deals, I can find the money, but I'm tired of managing things, so that's where I'm kind of done.
Yeah. What's the small multifamily inventory look like in like Salt Lake City in your areas? Because I was under the impression there wasn't a lot there.
There's not. No, I literally hit home runs on my first deals. I got like we bought the 8-plex for nine and a quarter. We put like 250, 275 into it after financing costs, maybe in some change. So we're all in at like 1.28, and it appraised for 1.9. So the 21 unit we bought for $3 million, it appraised for $345 the day we bought it. So I mean, we're in a pretty, as far as kind of how we're insulated with it, but.
Cool.
Hey, Heston, long time no see.
Hey, Chelsea, how are you? Yeah, it's been a
Good.
while.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Awesome.
Well, here, team.
Yeah, good stuff tonight, guys.
Quick shameless plug.
Quick shameless plugs opportunity for everybody.
Angel.
Needs, wants, abs.
Here, I can raise my hand.
There you go.
I'm giving you the stand.
Cool. So shameless plug. We've got a podcast. We do a 3-day virtual summit. Our next one's coming up September 23rd, 24th, 25th. It's next week. You should start seeing some promotions. Speaker cards and promo materials are starting to go out. And part of that's on me. I was a little late getting emails in from our production team because we're doing about 1 million things right now. But it is what it is. So maybe that's kind of it. I can put our website on here so you can find out about the summit.
Please do. Enter the info.
I am actively looking for multifamily in Salt Lake County specifically, as always. So if anyone has anything, or Tate, if you guys get anything that comes across your desk that you guys aren't pursuing,
yep, keep it up.
Holler. I'll make it worth your time. So other than that, that's really it. I need to probably call Paul because I have some questions for him with another deal that I've got kind of in the pipeline in the future. So have some financing questions. Do you do new construction stuff? Paul, you do, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'll give you a call this week or maybe next week when I'm back in Salt Lake, and I can kind of run the scenario by you, but I think you'd have some clarity for me. I actually think I have your email too, so maybe I'll just shoot you an email.
Put it in the chat, both my cell and my email. So.
Okay, cool. Perfect. I'll reach out.
Great.
We've got
everybody.
multiple opportunities at Greenlight for partnership right now. So go to investwithgreenlight.com. You can book an appointment with me and or Chelsea or Carl to talk about possibilities.
Sounds great.
Everybody keep an eye out. We're going to be emailing out the guest list from this evening, as well as some bonus material from Adam Adams. Hint, hint, it's going to be about creating your avatar and niche questionnaire.
3-page PDF. It's really, it's in depth. It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. So expect that in a couple days here. Just if you haven't already, put your info in the chat, although I think we've pretty much got everybody covered. With that being said, thank you as always for showing up. We appreciate you. And if there's anything we can do for you, you know where to find us. And like we have our Facebook group, so stay connected, and we will see you next month. Our guest is TBD at the moment.
I've seen him. He's good.
I know him too. Yeah, he's a cousin of Ugg.
Exactly.
Perfectly said, Kenneth.
On that note.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate your note there. And yeah, good to see everybody. Kyle, good to see you again. And
Angel, congrats on your deal.
Thank you.
Paul, thanks for joining us. Yeah, good stuff.
Bye.
Take care.
Everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.